This is At the Center of Gravity, a conversation series featuring some of the most compelling speakers we work with here at Gravity. I'm Nashreen Abdulaziz, co-founder of Gravity Speakers. In these conversations, we go beyond keynote titles and into the lived experiences, frameworks, and perspectives that change and shape the message. Today, I'm joined by Norliza Pavlakos, Golden Gavel honoree, entrepreneur, founder of My Mind Hub, and author of Conviction. With the upcoming release of The Indefatigable Entrepreneur, Built from Nothing, Norliza is translating lived resilience into a framework for performance, clarity, and endurance. In this conversation, we'll explore the intersection of mental health, entrepreneurship, and what it truly means to build from nothing. Norliza, I'm so glad we're having this conversation. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you, Nosheen, for having me today.
I remember when we first met. Well, I should say when we first spoke. You had called me out of the blue. I answered my phone call. And then here is this wonderful woman speaking to me with her Malaysian accent. And then my Singaporean accent came out. But immediately I felt that connection with you just because of our Southeast Asian roots. And I remember once we started really working together, and the first event that we did was the Microsoft virtual event. I watched you live. I read obviously all of your keynotes and I understood what your story to be, but to hear it, oh, that totally blew me away. I swear, like I think when I walked away from that session, it was like my whole perspective had shifted. I was telling everybody about you. So
Oh,
I'm really, really excited that we ended up getting to work together like this and just hearing your story around your resilience. But one thing was for sure is that your resilience, what it was, is undeniable. And sort of, I want to just jump right into that first question is around your first book, Conviction. It's deeply personal. It was surviving what most people cannot imagine. And when you look back now, what did those early experiences actually teach you about mental strength that most corporate environments misunderstand?
I think what it taught me the most is that it doesn't matter what adversity is in your way, you have to be completely accountable for the outcome of your life. You can't wait for anybody to come and fix it and sort things out. I mean, we all are blessed with some really amazing friends that will come in and support us where we need the support, but ultimately it's all on you. It doesn't matter what the calamity is. And I think it's also the understanding that with all the experiences that I've been through, is that life is really short. And so we only have a very short window in which we can make our life into what we want it to look like. So that's why I wanted to be a keynote speaker and travel and say, look, yes, I've been through these incredible adversities, but we are in control of our own life.
Yeah.
And so that's what that taught me.
Yeah, and with adversity, and I know I use the word resilience as well, and I'm thinking about the word around awareness because I am thinking this conversation around Mental Health Awareness Month. So I really want to pause on like language for a moment before we dive in deeper. Resilience is a word we hear constantly, and so is awareness, but they often get reduced to like toughness or acknowledgement. So from your perspective, what do these words actually mean? And what do they mean in practice?
So resilience actually means it's the gumption within you. It's the infatigableness within you. And it's the willingness to not stop and be completely accountable for your life because things happen and some of it is not our fault at all. But when we shift the blame or when we shift the focus onto, okay, how can I fix things? How can I move forward? How can I get from one place to another? For me, that's what resilience is. It's just self-accountability.
So speaking of organizations, can you give me an example of like a leader that's doing that well? Like what are the practices that a leader does that reflects this sort of support?
I think it's removing all hierarchy where you can and coming down to a human level and being able to, touch base with your employee who might be at the most, beginning phases of their career and being able to say, I hear you, I see you. What is it that you need? How can I support you?
But one thing I wanted to touch on is like what I love is that you're not just speaking about this, like you're building infrastructure because I'm
Yes.
thinking about your Mind Hub. So around mental health through my Mind Hub, like what was the moment or realization that made you say, I need my Mind Hub to exist? Like this needs to exist.
Initially, it was when COVID happened,
I see.
and I was speaking and traveling a lot for work. I was traveling all around the world for work. And then when this took place, I was like, well, there are no keynote engagements. It's going to be really hard to travel. So I need to pivot. And so I then went on to set up, initially it was called Positive Breakthroughs. So I could work with, CEOs and do executive coaching and also have some trauma therapy through that. And so that was working, it was doing well, but I thought, well, I can't, when everything opens up and I need to be able to go back on stage because that's my number one passion and love. I said, I need to be able to have something that, people can go to find support, because whenever I would travel, whichever country I was in, I would say 000 if you need help, or call this helpline or that helpline. So I think I knew that if I built something and I understood what was missing. So first, initially, I had to be a client, a paid client towards directory businesses. So I was paying to advertise positive breakthroughs in America and then in Australia, and then really deep dive into how they were doing things and how I could improve it. Coming from the point of view where I have been a victim to intense trauma in the past, I understood what victims needed. And the one thing they need is connection and trust, because trust is broken when you have come from a place of intense hurt. And so if I had a directory in which clinical psychologists, psychiatrists, doesn't matter who you are, but working in the allied health space, where you could have in a snapshot, what your credentials are, YouTube videos about you, so that people could feel that connection with you, because you can read everything in a bio, but once you hear someone speak, you can feel their authenticity. And so that's why I built it, to bridge that gap, to find, to fulfill that need where clients needed to be able to build trust with that practitioner. It was meant to be Australian-based directory, but recently, in the last couple of weeks, I've had quite a few practitioners from London and Canada sign up. So we decided to open up an online practitioner so anyone internationally could sign up. And we've got two platforms. We've even got the free platform where it just gives a little bit of information about your company, or we've got a very inexpensive 299 Australian dollars where you could have a full profile. And I wanted to keep it really inexpensive, because the ultimate gain for me was to have as many practitioners as I could, so that people could actually get help.
I love that. It's like it's such a global, providing global access is key. That's getting there. There's the access point. There is folks feeling kind of alone in their pain and in their suffering, and being able to kind of reach out and have that directory, I think is a fantastic avenue. And I love that it's going global. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I think there's something to be said when the person who's actually built it has come from that place of trauma. When I'm talking intensity of trauma, I'm talking, being kidnapped and almost murdered, and your story coming out in the press,
Yes.
when you're young, having your face reconstructed. So these are the sort of things that, if anyone understands what pain looks like, it's me. But
Yeah.
if anyone understands what it's like to build and become an entrepreneur and move forward, that's the main part of the story. And that's where Indefatigable Entrepreneur, that book, comes in.
But right before the book, your main love is the keynotes, is coming to stage. So it's interesting because you've now lived it, you've built it, you've scaled it, all your different ventures. And now you've taken it a step further, or you have been taking a step further and distilling it that all down to 45 to 60 minutes of a keynote. So one of your keynotes, the 1 day reset. It's such a powerful concept, especially in high pressure industries where people don't have the luxury of stepping away for a month and it's kind of like, I'm going to relax, I'm going to figure my life out. But you've kind of distilled this down. What is the biggest myth about burnout that leaders need to rethink?
That there is the ability to have the 1 day reset. There is ability to have that reset moment and to create some clarity and calm within the chaos that you're going through. And then how to, bring your nervous system down and to be calm, to start making, strategic decisions, and that just takes 24 hours, action,
Mm,
strategic action. And then using the adversity that you've been through, the hardship, whatever it is that you're facing, using that as like you're on a like you're cooking something on the stove, like you turn on the gas, use the adversity to turn on the fire within you,
love
right? And you use that as an advantage. And then being able to reframe, going back, looking at the goals that you've ticked off, the
it.
24-hour checklist. But that accountability has to come from within. And so that's what I teach through storytelling, through keynote speeches, the one day reset, the conviction moment, the power of nothing, how you build from absolutely nothing and
Yeah.
create something magnificent that serves humanity.
But if someone is watching this and who's leading a team that is overwhelmed right now, and I know a lot of us are, what is one practical reset tool that they can implement immediately?
Understanding that you have the power to switch your mind and to reframe everything that you're going through. It might feel like the biggest calamity that you're facing, but just don't focus on the calamity, focus on the things that you can do and move forward from that. What is a little thing that I can do to just move that little bit, closer to where I want to be?
Mm.
And it's all about action every single day, a little bit at a time. And so I think the biggest thing is we have the power to reset. We have the power to stop the intrusive thoughts as best as we can, get support where we need, whether it's through my mind hub or whether it's through, any practitioners that you have in your area that you can work with, someone that's completely skilled. That's what I want them to understand, that we have the ability to.
So belief, hope, that's an immediate, and I guess we have to just hear me from you more on like those granular steps to get into it when to get, and especially with the book, which actually brings me to that. So you're about to release, and I've practiced this word many a times, the indefatigable entrepreneur. I think I
Yeah.
got that right this time. I
Mhm.
know when you first told me about your book, you were like, "Do you even know what that means?" And I was like, "Oh, not really." But what I've understood is that basically indefatigable implies sustained endurance. So, how has your thinking evolved from telling your story to building a business framework? Where did that leap go? How did that leap come to be?
Well, it was always there. So Indefatigable Entrepreneur was there from 2015. So I worked with New World Libraries, who publishes all of Eckhart Tolle's books.
Go.
And so I worked with the team from New World Libraries to come up with the whole framework and everything. But it wasn't ready as yet because, when you're telling your story, it needs to be the conviction that it takes to move forward from the pain and the suffering and I think people needed conviction to see, the entire story. But Indefatigable Entrepreneurs, what happens after all that pain? So I've built so many different businesses. There's been a tailoring little
Yeah.
empire that I built. I had a little bar and a restaurant. I ran Miss India International, which was my events where we had 4,000 people coming through, and then building my mind hub and then transitioning also into keynote speaking.
Yeah.
So it's all of those stories rather than focusing on all the things that happened prior to that. But I do also talk about intense adversity and some painful, gut-wrenching moments.
Yeah.
But this book is all about, from all the painful, gut-wrenching moments, like what are the lessons learned? How do you apply that in business?
Yeah.
Because yes, I'm someone that's been through a lot of things, but I'm also a businesswoman, and
Yeah.
that nobody can take that away from me. And that's what this is about.
Got it. So with like in today's climate, we got economic pressures, we have AI disruption, we have constant change. What does it actually mean to be indefatigable?
Keep up with the times,
Mm.
to always do research, to always connect with human connection. Yes, we've got AI and, we can go on ChatGPT and talk about your problems and then it will come up with an answer, but it's not the same as human connection. And
Mm.
it's really important, to be tireless in your journey for self-growth, indefatigable, to really just work on yourself and always have that, that gumption to
Yeah.
do. So that's what I think it means for me. I keep it very simple.
One thing's for sure is that you've done so many different things. Like, well, like you mentioned, you listed it out. You built a national pageant. You turned around like a failing cafe. You scaled multiple ventures, tailoring and all of that. And then you found My Mind Hub. So there's a clear pattern. You've been building repeatedly, but under constraint.
Yes.
No capital, no connections, no safety. So
Mhm.
what does building from nothing teach you that leaders with resources often miss?
Is that you can do it. You can do anything that you set your mind to. It's so simple, you know.
Yeah.
And then if we pull it back to Rumi's quote, Rumi, 13th century Persian quote, and he wrote, "Life asked death, why do people love me but hate you?" Death responded, "It's because you're a beautiful lie and I'm the painful truth."
Mm.
So if that is real, obviously we're all only going to be on earth for a set amount of time. And so we have to make sure we're accountable for our life. No excuses. Okay, he did this, she did this, I did that, you did that. Sound out the noise. How can I shine the light on me? See, if I focus on everybody that's hurt me, if I point my finger at them, there's also three fingers pointing back at me, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess that's what it's about. It's not like the mistakes that I made, but it's okay, what can I do to move forward? Just keep moving forward because life is short.
Yeah.
And if anyone knows how short life is, it is a woman who was given the last rites before she was about to get murdered. I've had plenty of different experiences, but they're beautiful, rich experiences because it's taught me things that no MBA can teach me.
Yeah. Indefatigable is probably the exact word to choose for you and for this book and for your this next chapter of life, you know. Maybe this feels repetitive, but I want to ask, and this is kind of like a final question. If you could leave leaders with one anchor during times of uncertainty, one conviction they must carry, what would it be?
Be self-accountable. Sound out the noise and just be accountable.
Yeah.
Don't focus on all the things that you could have, would have, should have.
Mhm.
Just focus on what you can do and move forward. But move forward with integrity, honesty, authenticity. That's the most important thing. And in any kind of business setting and anything that you build, right? Always, work with the right people that can become family or people that are, going to value you just as you value them. And that's why it's nothing but an honor to be exclusive with Gravity Speakers. That was chosen very carefully in my mind. I think I have enough business experience to realize who I want to work with, who I want to be with, right? And so even that was a strategic business, and I was being self-accountable of, how do I want my keynote career to look like? Do I want to feel safe
Yeah.
in that? And with Gravity Speakers, not just a plug, I'm telling you, I feel so safe.
You're so sweet. I live my life that way with how I completely echo and mirror what you're saying in the sense of life is too short, number one. I want to surround myself with extremely inspirational people, and you are probably at the top of the list. Thank you
Oh,
so
thank
much.
you. Thank you
Thank you
so much.
so much for having this conversation. I mean, listening to you, what becomes clear is that resilience really isn't about enduring quietly. It's about building systems that allow you to recover, decide, and move forward, even without a safety net. And that's what makes your work so timely. So,
Yes.
for organizations thinking about Mental Health Awareness Month, leadership offsites, or performance focused events, your frameworks offer both humanity and clarity. Norliza, congratulations on the new
Thank,
book. I'm going to say
thank
it
you.
one more time, The Indefatigable Entrepreneur.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for this conversation. And I
Thank you.
can't wait to keep talking. We're going to keep talking.
Cool. For the rest of my life, I'll probably die in a hotel room because I'm about to go for a keynote engagement and I'm like 75 years old. Yes, it's never going to stop. I'm
Never
hungry.
going to stop. Never going
Love
to
it.
stop.
Very passionate about it. So yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much, Norliza. Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Appreciate you.
Bye.